Hello and welcome! This is a user named Lucifer, and I'm going to talk you through how I renovated Birchbee Village. So, if you might have seen from my video previously, you get an overview of what this used to look like, what it now looks like, and from some of the feedback I've received, people actually want to know why I chose certain things and how I did certain things. So that's what today's video is going to be about. I'm going to talk you through how I sorted out this village, made it a little bit more easy to walk around, and how I sort of went about choosing my renovations. So, hope you enjoy. So to start off with, we're going to look at the tavern. So the tavern was the first thing that I improved. Sort of started at this northwest corner of the village, and this is where I sort of started. Now before this point, I had done all the roads, put them in. So first thing I do, as you'll see in the previous video, that's where I start off with, because the most irritating part of pre-generated villages is the fact that the roads don't work, and you have to jump up cliffs to try and get to the rest of the village. So that's the first thing that I fix, and is the reason why I started fixing up villages to begin with, because I wanted to actually get around the village. So the tavern. Now this is a mine colonies tavern that was pre-generated. Some of the walls were cobwebs instead. So the first thing I do is get the outside to work. I then look at improving details. So we've got some nice upgraded birch fence there. Just gives a bit of a softness to the corner. I also added in a fireplace, and so you've got a little chimney here. But due to size constraints, mainly with the wall here being directly on one of the upstairs rooms, I just did a very basic one, not quite like the chimneys I've done on other places. So for this tavern, I've given it a little bit of a beer garden with some benches. I haven't done too much decoration out here. I'm not fantastic at decorations, so it's a little bit sparse, and maybe if other people are better at decorating, I could get some help with that. So for the inside of the tavern, I chose to do a bit of a green theme with this tavern. You'll see as I go along this whole place that each of the buildings I try to stick to like one colour scheme. So I called this Greensleeves Tavern to fit, and as you see here, the inside I've kind of given it, I kind of made a template with this tavern of how I would then fix up the rest of the taverns in this area. So there's only 2 taverns. I thought there were 3 when I started off, but there's only 2. So you've got a nice corner sofa here. We've got some seating tables. I kind of stuck similar to the original template that the tavern had. So there's always a sort of bar area in this area. I might, while I'm talking, also show you what it looked like before. So there was a bar area over here. There was then a whole bunch of tables. I've changed it to be a bit more of an open concept, so not so many tables packed into the same area. There was a I think it was like an armchair here from a sign and stairs. So I've given it a bit more of an open feeling, easier to walk around in, and this tavern has this music. So each tavern, I've given it a different soundtrack for this area. Okay, so the sound now cuts out, and that's because I realised while video editing that the music spoke over what I said. So what I'm saying here is absolutely love the kitchen floor, really love the way it looks. The soundtrack that you'll hear, the small bit just playing, that was in the last video as the opening. This is what I've changed the rooms to. You've got a little coat rack, you've got a double bed, you've got a bedside table. All of the rooms look like this. Again, I stick to a template fashion of how I run things. So that is what I've done for the tavern. I haven't changed too much about its structure, its architecture, or anything. I've literally just tidied up what was there and given a bit of a better aesthetic to the inside. So that is my template for the tavern. So I realised when I started talking about the tavern that really the first thing I should speak about is the paths. I did a bit of a preamble about the paths, but let's have a better look at this. So the paths that were pre-generated already roughly had this sort of pattern where you've got these stone bricks on the outside and just the normal bricks on the inside with the same colour palette. This was kind of a little bit messy with where exactly it would fit. So the first thing that I did was I went around and I gave these paths. Now, I am not a fan of constantly having to jump up single blocks to get around a village. So I always plan to do stairs. Now, the unfortunate thing is, these particular bricks are from this mod pack called Domum or Nomentum. First time I've had to say that out loud. They didn't have their own stairs, which is unfortunate. I always try to stick with the same colour scheme stairs. So instead, I used these birch stairs, because then you could just walk around the village nice and easily. I don't like having to jump to get round a settlement. I'm lazy like that, and yeah, extra time now, much easier later. I then also try to put in street lighting, so even if I were to just change it to night time, things won't spawn inside the village. You can still see everything and get around absolutely fine. So yeah, paths are the first thing. Now paths get interesting because you've got the routes that they take up and down cliffs, and you can't always do it directly. So as we go around the village, I'll show you. You've got this lower area here. I connect up the paths in places where originally they didn't have paths, just because it made more sense for the city template. Now going along here, we have another interesting point. We already had paths going along here, and going up here a bit, but then it sort of stopped here, so I got it to loop round and connect up here. This was another dead end, so I got them to connect. I don't like leaving dead ends. I will have paths like this, where it just comes up to a building area, but I don't like having dead ends. So you won't see, once I've cleared up a place, just a path going off and stopping where would be sort of the entrance of a village. Now, going along here, this is where things got more interesting. Because there were paths at the top of there were paths down here, and we needed them to connect. So I have now made this large staircase. This is a little bit more interesting, but isn't the magnum opus, shall we say, of trying to get these paths to work. This area, it had a little bit of a path up here, but this, I believe, originally connected down here, and that wasn't going to work with the city plan, so I just got it to come around here. An interesting thing that you might note, if you look at the video carefully, there are a lot of things that I changed that I didn't highlight. One of those is this here. This was always an outcropping with not much stone underneath it. There was a little bit here which I dug into to get around, but there wasn't one of these spikes here. I decided to add it in because I thought it sort of made the top area look a little bit more structurally sound, make a bit more sense, make this look like a little tunnel. So I made a little bit of a change there. I've also added in some stones with grass at the top to really sort of add to this vibrance of the churchyard. I will talk about the church later, don't worry. We'll get back to that fun. So up here, this is a completely additional path that I added in. There was always a path at the bottom here and a path at the top. I got this to work. The worst bit of pathing, though, is definitely up here. As you can see, at this point I've had to get it to come along a bend so that it can connect because it didn't have enough space. Over here, this got quite complicated with where everything fit in between these. I'll have to see if I've got any clips from the beforehand shots to show why this area was so difficult. So there was some pathing in this because not having to account for elevation changes meant that you were absolutely fine to put a path along here, but it was then difficult. And as you can see, this is where the crater was, and I am filling it up. It's quite interesting down there, still a work in progress. I'm not going to bring you through that at the moment, that will be another video's time. So that is with the paths. Paths are always interesting. I think it gives the biggest change and uplift to a settlement, because then you can actually get around it. I've turned off snow so it stops snowing on top of the paths, but it really gives that sort of colour pop and brings everything together. So that is the paths. This is going to be a long ass video of me talking about shit, but I hope you guys enjoy it.